The Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known galaxy. Its walls stretched upward for nearly a kilometer, made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Floating platforms held representatives from 12 elder species, each one surrounded by holographic banners that displayed their civilization's symbols and achievements. The air itself hummed with translation frequencies, converting thousands of alien languages into something each delegate could understand. Park. Una sat alone on the lowest platform in the chamber. Her seat was small, uncomfortable, and positioned so that she had to crane her neck upward to see any other delegate. This was not an accident. The Galactic Council had designed it this way. They wanted humanity's representative to feel small. They wanted her to understand her place. She was 42 years old, black hair pulled back in a tight knot, and eyes that revealed nothing of her thoughts. Her dark blue uniform bore a single symbol on the chest, a pale blue circle representing Earth. No medals decorated her shoulders. No ribbons hung from her collar. She had chosen to appear simple, unremarkable, forgettable. Behind her stood Lieutenant Kim Taiho, her aide and translator. He was younger than her by 15 years, tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that looked like it had never learned how to hide emotion. Right now, his jaw was tight with anger he was struggling to contain. The session had been going on for 3 hours. "Hi, Counselor." Dexvin of the Valari stood on the highest platform, his body a magnificent display of evolution's artistry. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, with iridescent feathers that shifted between purple and gold as he moved. His eyes were large and black, set in a narrow skull that ended in a curved beak. When he spoke, his voice carried the musical quality of his species, each word seeming to sing even when delivering insults. "The Council recognizes the petition from the human delegation," Dexvin announced, his crest of feathers rising with obvious contempt.
"Oh."
"Earth requests a permanent seat on this council. Earth requests voting rights on matters of galactic policy. Earth requests to be treated as an equal among the elder species." Soft clicking sounds filled the chamber. Park Una recognized it as laughter from the Korthax delegation. They were massive creatures, standing for meters tall with armored bodies that resembled Earth's ancient insects. Their representative, General Vraxel, made no effort to hide his amusement. "The Council has reviewed humanity's petition," Dexvin continued. "We have studied your species for the past century, since your first ships entered our territory. We have observed your behavior, analyzed your history, and evaluated your potential contribution to galactic civilization." Park Una kept her expression neutral. She had expected this. "Our conclusion is unanimous." Dexvin paused, allowing the moment to stretch. "Humanity is classified as a warfearing species, cowards by nature, unfit for membership among the elder races." The clicking laughter grew louder. Other sounds joined it, the wet bubbling of the Dremery, the high-pitched whistles of the Norix, the grinding stone-on-stone noise that passed for speech among the Kelver. The entire chamber was laughing at Earth. Lieutenant Kim took a step forward, but Park Una raised one finger without looking back. He stopped. "The evidence is clear," Dexvin said, gesturing with one wing. A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing images of human ships and soldiers. "Your military forces are minimal. Your fleet consists of fewer than 200 combat-capable vessels. Your soldiers number in the mere millions spread across a dozen colony worlds." The image shifted to show a map of human space. It was small compared to the territories of the elder species. A tiny cluster of stars in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. In the 70 years since achieving faster-than-light travel, humanity has engaged in exactly 0 wars of conquest. You have claimed no territory beyond what you initially colonized. You have shown no ambition, no drive, no hunger for expansion. General Vraxel rose from his platform, his armored body catching the light. "They are prey animals," he declared, his translator converting his clicking speech into words. "I have studied their biology. They evolved as endurance hunters on a moderate world. No natural armor, no claws, no venom. They survived by running and hiding. More laughter. They have no conquest instinct, Vraxel continued. When faced with conflict, they negotiate. When pressed, they retreat. When challenged, they offer treaties and trade agreements. This is not the behavior of a species worthy of respect. The Dremery delegate rose next. The Dremery were ancient beyond measure, cephalopod-like beings with dozens of tentacles and large, unblinking eyes. They called their representative simply the Witness. For the Dremery believed that names were prisons for the soul. The Witness did not speak aloud. Instead, it projected its thoughts directly into the minds of every being in the chamber. Images flooded Park Yuna's consciousness, human soldiers laying down their weapons, human diplomats signing surrender documents, human civilians fleeing from conflict zones. We have touched the minds of humans, the Witness communicated. We have felt their emotions, tasted their thoughts. They are consumed by fear. They build weapons but dread using them. They train soldiers but pray for peace. Their very souls tremble at the thought of violence. Park Yuna's expression did not change, but her hands tightened slightly on the arms of her chair. This is not wisdom, the Witness continued. This is weakness. A species that fears its own strength will never contribute to galactic civilization. They will cower in their corner of space until a stronger species comes to claim what they were too timid to defend. High Counselor Vexfin spread his wings, a gesture of finality. The Council's judgment is rendered. Humanity's petition for membership is denied. Furthermore, humanity is officially classified as a protected species, to be guided and supervised by the elder races until such time as they develop the courage to stand on their own. The holographic display showed Earth's symbol being moved to a separate category, alongside primitive species that had not yet developed space travel, species that were watched over like children. Does the human representative wish to respond? Dexfin asked, his tone making it clear that no response would change anything. Every eye in the chamber turned to look down at Park Yuna. She sat motionless for a long moment, her face still revealing nothing. Then, slowly, she stood. Lieutenant Kim stepped closer to her, his hand moving toward the datapad on his belt. She gave him the smallest nod. High Counselor, Park Yuna said, her voice calm and clear. I would like to present evidence that the Council may have overlooked in its assessment of humanity. Crest flattened slightly. The Council's research was thorough. What evidence could you possibly offer? Park Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, tight at the corners, and it did not reach her eyes. Our real history, she said, not the version we allowed you to see. High Counselor Vexfin tilted his head the way a bird might examine an insect before deciding whether to eat it. His black eyes showed no concern, only mild curiosity. The Council has access to all public records from Earth, he said. Your history is well documented. Your wars were small, your conflicts brief, your casualties minimal by galactic standards. There is nothing you could show us that would change our assessment. Park Yuna remained standing. She clasped her hands behind her back, gesture that seemed relaxed but allowed her to signal Lieutenant Kim without the delegates seeing. With respect, High Counselor, you accessed the records we made available to alien observers. Those records were carefully selected. A murmur passed through the chamber. The Norix delegate, a serpentine creature covered in silver scales, leaned forward with interest. The Kelver representative, a being made of living stone, shifted its massive body to get a better view. That you suggested, Dexvin said slowly. That humanity has been hiding information from the Galactic Council. I am stating it plainly, Park Yuna replied. We hid information deliberately. For 70 years, the murmur became louder. Several delegates began speaking at once, their translators creating a confusion of overlapping voices. General Varaxol's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation in his species. This is an outrage, the Korthax general declared. Deception of the Council is grounds for severe sanctions. Your species could be banned from galactic trade. Your colonies could be placed under direct administration. Perhaps, Park Yuna said. But before you decide on punishment, I suggest you learn what we were hiding. And why. The witness stirred, its tentacles writhing slowly. "We will examine your mind directly, human. We will see what you have concealed. You are welcome to try." Park Yuna's voice carried no fear. "But I should warn you, when your predecessors attempted to probe our military commanders, 3 of them suffered what I believe your species calls psychic fracture. They never recovered." The witness went still. Every tentacle stopped moving. "You are lying," it said, but there was uncertainty in its mental voice. "I am not. The incident was classified on both sides. Your government did not want to admit that a supposedly inferior species could damage Dromeri minds. Our government did not want to reveal the nature of human mental resistance." Park Yuna paused. "We have spent 10,000 years fighting each other. Do you think we never developed defenses against mental intrusion?" Silence fell over the chamber. For the first time, some of the delegates looked uncomfortable. Lieutenant Kim stepped forward, his datapad raised. "Ambassador Park has requested access to the central display system to present evidence." The request was denied by council protocols. "Of course it was denied," Thexvin snapped. "Non-members cannot access council systems." "We anticipated that," Park Yuna said. "Lieutenant." Kim tapped his datapad and spoke clearly. "Override Code Sigma 7. Authorization. United Earth Diplomatic Corps. Emergency historical correction." Oh, amend. Nothing happened. Then the holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered. The image of Earth's symbol, sitting among the primitive species, disappeared. It was replaced by static. "What is this?" Thexvin demanded. Guards seized them. Armored figures began moving toward the human platform, but Park Yuna did not flinch. 70 years ago, when humanity first made contact with the Galactic Council, we were given access to your historical databases. A gesture of goodwill, you called it. You wanted us to learn about the elder species and their great achievements. Static on the display began to clear. What you did not realize was that our engineers studied your system architecture very carefully. We found several vulnerabilities. We installed emergency access protocols in case we ever needed them. The guards reached the edge of the human platform but stopped. They were watching the display, their attention drawn by what was beginning to appear. "You hacked the council's systems," Thexvin said. His voice was quiet now, all pretense of superiority gone. "We prepared for the possibility that we might need to defend ourselves," Park Yuna corrected. "There is a difference." "Why?" The question came from the Norix delegate, her serpentine body coiled with tension. "Why would you need such defenses? We offered humanity friendship. You offered humanity a choice between submission and destruction," Park Yuna said. "Every species that joins the council is expected to accept its rules, follow its orders, and surrender its sovereignty. We reviewed the histories of the 23 species that declined membership. All 23 no longer exist. Another silence, longer and heavier than the first. They were destroyed by various causes," Thexvin said carefully. "Asteroid impacts, plague, internal conflict. Convenient causes, well-timed causes." Park Yuna's voice hardened. "We are not fools, High Counselor. We saw the pattern. We understood the choice you were really offering. Join and obey, or be erased." "While you pretended to be weak," General Vraxel said slowly. His tone had changed. He was no longer mocking. He was evaluating the way a soldier evaluates a potential enemy. "We presented a version of ourselves that you would underestimate," Park Yuna confirmed. "A harmless species. Timid explorers. Peaceful traders. No threat to anyone? And the truth?" Park Yuna turned to face the central display, which had finally finished loading. The image that appeared was simple. A burning city seen from above. Human soldiers marched through the streets while smoke rose into a dark sky. "The truth," she said, "is that humanity has been at war with itself since before we learned to write. The truth is that we are the most violent, dangerous, and creative species we have ever encountered. The truth is that you should be very, very grateful that we chose to pretend to be cowards." She gestured to Lieutenant Kim. "Show them," she said. "Show them everything." The display expanded. filling the entire center of the chamber with light and sound and horror. Images cascaded across the holographic space, trenches filled with bodies, weapons that split atoms and poisoned the earth for generations. The delegates watched in growing silence. Some of them had never seen such destruction. Some of them had thought such destruction was impossible. Park Yuna stood with her hands clasped behind her back and let the images speak for themselves. She had spent 70 years preparing for this moment. She had practiced her words 1,000 times. She had imagined this scene in her dreams, but nothing had prepared her for the look on Nexvin's face as he began to understand what humanity really was. It was fear, pure, primal, unmistakable fear. And the presentation had only just begun. The holographic display showed a planet. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling over familiar shapes. Earth, as it had been 400 years ago. "This is our homeworld," Park Yuna said. In the year 1914 by our calendar, we had a global population of approximately 1.8 billion people. We had just invented powered flight. Our fastest ships crossed oceans in weeks. Our most advanced weapons could kill perhaps 100 people per minute. The image shifted to show soldiers in primitive uniforms, carrying long rifles with wooden stocks. They were marching in neat columns across green fields. Then we went to war. The fields transformed. The green grass became brown mud. The neat columns became tangled masses of bodies. Explosions tore the earth apart. Gas clouds drifted across trenches where men screamed and clawed at their faces. 17 million dead, Park Yuna said. In 4 years, using weapons we had invented only decades earlier. The Korthax general made a sound that the translator could not convert. His mandibles hung open. "You killed 17 million of your own species," he said slowly. "In a single conflict that we considered a preliminary exercise," Park Yuna replied. 20 years later, we did it again. Better. More efficiently.
Oh.
The display changed. Cities appeared, magnificent structures of stone and glass. Then fire fell from the sky, and the cities became tombs. 70 million dead in what we called the Second World War. We developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in a single flash. We built factories whose only purpose was to systematically murder millions of our own people, based on their religion, their ethnicity, their political beliefs. She paused, letting the images continue. Skeletal prisoners behind wire fences, mass graves being filled by exhausted soldiers, a mushroom cloud rising over a burning city. "We split the atom," she said quietly. "Not to generate power, not to advance science. We split the atom because we wanted a more efficient way to kill each other." The witness had retreated to the back of its platform. Its tentacles were wrapped around its body, a posture that Park Yuna had been told indicated extreme distress. "This cannot be accurate," the witness communicated. "No species could survive such self-destruction. The psychological damage alone would render a civilization non-functional." "You would think so," Park Yuna agreed. "And yet, here we are." She gestured and new images appeared. Soldiers charging across open ground into machine gun fire, pilots diving their planes into enemy ships, armies marching through frozen wastelands, losing thousands to cold and hunger, but refusing to stop. "You called us warfearing," she said. "You saw that we negotiate instead of fight, that we retreat instead of advance, that we sign treaties instead of declaring victory. You interpreted this as cowardice." She turned to face the delegates directly. "It is not cowardice. It is discipline. It is the discipline of a species that knows exactly what it is capable of and chooses every single day to hold itself back." Lieutenant Kim transmitted additional data to the display. Charts appeared, showing weapons development, military casualties, civilian deaths. The numbers climbed higher and higher as the centuries passed. By the time we achieved faster than light travel, Park Yuna continued, we had killed over 500 million of our own kind in organized conflict. We had developed weapons capable of rendering our entire planet uninhabitable. We had written thousands of books in academic studies, analyzing our own capacity for violence. She pointed to a specific image, a missile silo. Massive doors opened to reveal the dark shape of a weapon waiting to be launched. At the peak of what we called the Cold War, humanity possessed enough nuclear weapons to destroy our civilization 12 times over. We had plans to use them. We came within minutes of using them on multiple occasions. The only thing that stopped us was the certain knowledge that using them would mean our own destruction as well. Mutually assured destruction, High Counselor Dexvin said. His voice was barely above a whisper. Yes. We invented a concept in which both sides of a conflict build weapons so terrible that using them becomes unthinkable. And then we lived under that threat for decades, knowing that at any moment, a single mistake could end everything. The Norix delegate uncurled slightly. Why? She asked. Why would any species do this to itself? Park Yuna was quiet for a moment. Because we were afraid, she finally said. Not afraid of war, afraid of losing. Afraid of being conquered, enslaved, erased. Afraid that if we do not build the biggest weapon, someone else will, and they will use it against us. She walked to the center of her platform, as close to the display as she could get. Every war we have ever fought. We fought because we believed we had no choice. Every weapon we have ever built, we built because we believed someone else would build it first. We are a species driven by fear, yes, but not the fear you imagined. The display showed a final image from Earth's history, a soldier, young and dirty and exhausted, cradling a wounded comrade in a destroyed street. Both of them were crying. We fear each other, Park Yuna said. We fear what we might do if we stop trying to be civilized. We fear the monster that lives inside every human heart, the voice that whispers that the only way to be safe is to make everyone else afraid of you. She turned to look up at Dexvin. You asked why we hide our true nature? Why we pretend to be harmless? Why we negotiate when we could conquer? She gestured to the image of the two soldiers. Because we have seen what we become when we stop pretending. We have seen the camps, the bombs, the cities turned to ash. We have looked into the abyss of our own nature, and we have chosen, with every ounce of will we possess, to be better than we are. The chamber was completely silent. No clicking laughter, no bubbling mockery, no grinding stone in stone, contempt, just silence and fear, the growing understanding that the Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. You branded us as war-fearing, Park Yuna said. You were wrong. We are war-knowing. We are war-remembering. We carry the weight of 500 million dead in our collective memory, and we wake up every morning and choose not to add to that number. She paused, till someone gives us a reason to change our minds. Park Yuna stepped off her platform. It was a violation of Council protocol. Non-members were not permitted to leave their assigned positions during formal sessions. Guards moved to intercept her, but High Counselor Vexvin raised one wing, and they stopped. She walked to the center of the chamber, directly beneath the holographic display. The images of human warfare still flickered above her, casting strange shadows across her face. I want to be very clear about something, she said. I am not proud of what I have shown you. No human is proud of our history of violence. We do not celebrate our wars or glorify our weapons. We remember them as warnings. She looked up at General Varaxel of the Korthax. Ow. You showed footage of human soldiers retreating from a border skirmish with pirates. You called it evidence of cowardice. May I explain what actually happened? Vraxel's mandibles clicked uncertainly. If you wish. The patrol consisted of 12 soldiers on a light cruiser. They encountered 47 pirate vessels, including 3 heavy gunships. Standard military doctrine in any species would call for retreat in such circumstances. They had support vessels within range, Vraxel countered. They could have called for reinforcements and engaged. Yes, they could have. And approximately 200 pirates would have died, along with 3 or 4 of our own soldiers. Park Yuna tilted her head. Instead, our commander chose to retreat, then negotiated with the pirate leadership over the following 6 months. 15 of the pirates eventually surrendered and were rehabilitated. The rest dispersed to other regions. So you let them escape. Fraxel said. We chose not to kill people who could be saved. We chose to spend 6 months talking instead of 6 minutes shooting. Park Yuna's voice remained calm. This is not weakness, General. This is the discipline of a species that has learned, through centuries of bloodshed, that killing should be the last option, not the first. She turned to face the witness. You touched human minds and felt fear. You interpreted this as timidity, but you did not probe deep enough. You felt only the surface layer, the conscious thoughts that we allow ourselves to acknowledge. The witness's tentacles twitched. We are the most accomplished telepaths in the galaxy. No mental defense can fully conceal the truth from us. Your predecessors thought the same thing. 3 of them died, proving themselves wrong. Park Yuna walked closer to the Dremery platform. Let me tell you what lies beneath the fear you sensed. She stopped directly below the witness, looking up at its many eyes. Every human carries a capacity for violence that we spend our entire lives learning to control. We train ourselves from childhood to suppress our aggressive impulses, to think before acting, to consider consequences before striking. This is not natural to us. It requires constant effort. Every day, every hour, every moment. She held up her hand, palm open. This hand has never killed anyone. I have never fired a weapon at another living being. I have never struck another person in anger. By the standards of my species, I am considered remarkably peaceful. She closed her hand into a fist. But if someone threatened my family, my home, my people, I would kill them without hesitation. I would kill them with my bare hands if necessary. I would hunt them across the galaxy and destroy everything they loved before ending their lives. And I would feel no guilt, only satisfaction that I had protected what mattered to me. The witness recoiled. You feel horror? Park Yuna said. You think this makes me a monster? But I am not special. Every human you have ever met carries this same capacity. Every diplomat, every traitor, every scientist who smiled and shook your hand and signed your treaties. All of us are holding back something dark. She turned to address the entire chamber. You asked about our military capabilities. You noted that our fleet is small, our army is modest, our weapons seem primitive compared to the elder species. Lieutenant Kim activated a new display from the human platform. Technical specifications appeared, ship designs, weapon systems, strategic assets. This is what we show to alien observers, Park Yuna said. This is the defensive fleet we allow you to scan and analyze. You concluded that it represents the full extent of our military power. The display changed. This is the truth. The chamber fell silent as the numbers appeared. Fleet sizes that dwarfed the official figures. Weapons systems that the Council had never seen. Strategic reserves that had been hidden in deep space stations and hollowed-out asteroids. We call it the Reserve Fleet, Park Yuna said. It has never been deployed. It has never been revealed to any alien species. It exists for only one purpose, to ensure that if humanity is ever truly threatened, we will have the means to respond. High Counselor Thexvin found his voice. The scale of this deception is unprecedented. You have hidden an entire military force from the Council's surveillance systems. We have hidden many things. Park Yuna nodded to Lieutenant Kim, who transmitted another file. Project Sunset, she said as new images appeared. Developed in the 2180s, a weapon designed to destabilize stellar cores. In simple terms, it can make stars explode. Nobody spoke. We built a prototype. It worked. We tested it on an uninhabited system and watched as a star consumed its own planets in nuclear fire. Park Yuna's voice was flat, emotionless. Then we dismantled the project and destroyed all records of its construction. Why? The question came from the Norix delegate, her voice barely above a whisper. Because some weapons should not exist. Because we looked at what we had created and felt sick. Because we remembered all the other weapons we had built when we thought we had no choice. And we decided that this time, we had a choice. Park Yuna walked back toward her platform, but stopped halfway. You called us warfearing. You thought this made us weak. Let me explain what warfearing actually means for humanity. She spread her arms, encompassing the entire chamber. It means we understand consequences. It means we have buried enough of our own people to know that victory is always more expensive than it appears. It means we have developed weapons terrible enough to end civilizations and then chosen not to use them. She lowered her arms. Do you know what requires more strength, High Counselor? To fight or to restrain yourself from fighting when you know you could win? Dexvin did not answer. Every day, humanity chooses restraint. Every interaction with the Council, every negotiation, every treaty, every diplomatic smile and handshake, we choose again and again to be peaceful. Not because we must, because we want to be better than our history suggests we can be. She stepped back onto her platform and turned to face the delegates one final time. You have judged us based on our restraint. You have mistaken our discipline for weakness. I hope, for all our sakes, that you never learn how wrong you were. The Grand Assembly Hall had never been so quiet. The crystal walls continued their soft blue pulsing. But the usual background noise of alien conversation had completely disappeared. Every delegate sat motionless, processing what they had just witnessed. High Counselor Dexvin rose slowly from his seat. His feathers, which had been bright with contempt at the start of the session, now lay flat against his body. It was a posture of submission in Valari culture. Though Park Yuna suspected he was not consciously aware of it, Ambassador Park, he said carefully, your presentation has been illuminating. However, the Council must consider whether these claims are genuine or simply an elaborate attempt to intimidate us. Park Yuna had expected this. She nodded to Lieutenant Kim. 3 months ago, she said, a Valari smuggling vessel operating in the Kepler corridor fired upon a human civilian transport. The vessel was carrying colonists to a new settlement on Kepler 4 for 2B. 47 humans died in the attack, including 6 children. This crest twitched. That incident was investigated. The vessel was operating without authorization. It was not acting on behalf of the Valari government, we know. Park Yuna's voice remained calm. We also know that the vessel was owned by a consortium with close ties to your council delegation. We know that the attack was motivated by a desire to slow human expansion into the Kepler sector, which your government considers strategically valuable. The chamber stirred. Other delegates began looking at Dexvin with new expressions. These are baseless accusations, Dexvin said, but his voice lacked conviction. We have evidence. Communications, intercepts, financial records, testimony from surviving crew members who were captured by our patrol vessels after the attack. Park Yuna paused. We have not released this evidence publicly. We have not demanded reparations. We have not even filed a formal complaint with the Council. Why not? The question came from General Vraxel, whose tone had changed completely from mockery to genuine curiosity. Because our people wanted blood. Park Yuna let that statement hang in the air. When news of the attack reached Earth, there were riots. Millions of people marched in the streets, demanding military action against the Valari. Our fleet commanders submitted 14 separate requests for authorization to strike at Valari border installations. She turned to look directly at Dexvin. You know what our government did in response? They sent me, a diplomat. One woman alone, to sit in your lowest seat and endure your mockery. To give you a chance to make this right without bloodshed. Dexvin's beak opened, then closed. He had no response. I have spent 3 months preparing for today, Park Yuna continued. 3 months of being laughed at, dismissed, treated as a representative of a coward species. 3 months of smiling and nodding while your delegates made jokes about human weakness. She stepped forward, her voice dropping to something cold and hard. I did this because my government believed that war could still be avoided, because we have seen too much death to want more, because we hoped that if we showed you the truth about humanity, you might understand that your contempt is not only wrong, it is dangerous. The chamber remained silent. You have called us war-fearing. Let me tell you what we actually fear. Park Yuna began walking toward the center of the chamber again. We fear ourselves. We fear the thing we become when someone hurts our children, burns our homes, threatens our existence. She stopped directly beneath the holographic display. We have spent 10,000 years learning to contain our violence. We have built civilizations on the principle that individual anger must be controlled for the greater good. We have created laws, religions, philosophies, all designed to keep us from becoming the monsters we know we can be. She looked up at the images still floating above her. Cities burning, soldiers dying, weapons capable of ending worlds. But the monster is still there. It never goes away. It just waits, patient and hungry for someone to give it permission to emerge. She turned to face the delegates. The Valari killed 47 of our people. 6 children. If our government had not chosen restraint, if they had listened to the voices calling for revenge, your homeworld would be burning right now. Your fleet would be debris. Your civilization would be a memory. No one moved. No one spoke. We chose not to do this. We chose, despite every instinct screaming for blood, to send a diplomat instead of a fleet. We chose to give you a chance. Park Yuna walked back toward her platform. As she passed General Vraxel, she paused. You asked about our military capabilities. You noted that our soldiers retreat when outnumbered. You concluded that we lack the will to fight. She looked up at him. We retreat because we know that if we stay, we will win. And winning for humanity often means leaving nothing alive. She continued walking. The leash can come off, she said, her voice carrying through the silent chamber. It almost came off 3 months ago. It will come off eventually if you continue to treat us as prey animals to be mocked and dismissed. She reached her platform and turned to face the assembly one final time. We do not want this. We have spent 70 years pretending to be harmless because we hoped we would never have to reveal what we really are. But you have forced our hand. Lieutenant Kim transmitted one final file to every delegate's console. A data packet containing the complete, unedited history of human warfare. Every conflict, every weapon, every innovation in the technology of killing, every death toll documented and preserved. Study this, Park Yuna said. Understand what humanity is capable of. Then ask yourselves whether you want to continue treating us as a war-fearing species unworthy of respect. The witness opened the file. Its tentacles began moving through the data, absorbing centuries of human violence in seconds. Then it screamed. It was a psychic scream. It's projected into every mind in the chamber. The other delegates felt echoes of what the witness was experiencing. Images of suffering beyond comprehension. Cruelty beyond imagination. Destruction beyond anything the elder species had ever witnessed. The witness collapsed, its tentacles going limp. That, Park Yuna said quietly, is why we hide our history. That is why we pretend to be peaceful. Not because we are weak, because we are trying with everything we have to be something better than what we were. She sat down in her small, neat, uncomfortable seat at the lowest tier of the chamber. The Galactic Council has called humanity warfearing. I have shown you the truth. What you do with that truth is your decision. 1 year later, humanity was granted a permanent seat on the Galactic Council. Not in the lowest tier. In the second highest, beside the Valari themselves, Ambassador Park Yuna accepted the position with grace. She did not threaten. She did not gloat. She simply nodded, shook High Counselor Vexvin's hand, and took her new seat. But every species in the galaxy noticed something in the sessions that followed. When the human delegation entered a room, the other delegates stood. Not out of respect, out of the ancient, primal instinct that tells prey to acknowledge a predator. And in the archives of every civilization, a new entry was added to their threat assessment databases. Humanity do not provoke. They are not war-fearing. They are war-remembering. They carry the weight of 500 million dead. They have chosen, for now, to be peaceful. The key words were noted carefully by every intelligence agency in the galaxy. For now, the leash remained on. But everyone understood, with perfect clarity, that it could come off at any moment. And when it did, the galaxy would burn.